Hey, I'm Pat, and in this video we'll be going over referencing, and yeah, that's pretty much what we'll be going over. Referencing like objects in the workspace to explore, like scripts, parts, tools, and how to change their properties inside a script. Also, just a side note, Roblox for some reason decided to revert their icon changes, and now we're back to the old icons. It was kind of weird because I was sort of getting used to the newer ones, but they decided to change it back. I guess they're getting too much hate, but let's actually go into the video. So the first thing I want to go over is different globals. So we got game, we got scripts, and we got workspace. So what these are different ways of accessing things. Whenever you're making a reference, it's usually going to start with game, script, or workspace, because that's how you access things from. It's like a common global that you can always use. The script would be the current script that you're in. Game would just be the parent of everything inside Explorer over here. So all these services inside of Explorer, their parent is game. So you can do game, and then you put dot to index a child, and you can also do dot parent, but you can do game.workspace, and you can see workspace is a child of game. If you don't know what children and parents and instances are, you should probably rewatch my first How to Scripting series video. It goes over all that pretty much. But we can do game.workspace, but workspace is already global, so that's kind of pointless, right? So we don't need to do that. But we can also access something's parent. So if we wanna, I can show you for a demonstration. We can print the script.parent, and if we run it, we get it. Run it. You'll see we'll get server script service because the script is under server script service. And then another thing we can do is we can access things child. So there can only be one parent of an instance, right? So that's why we can access the parent with that parent, but there can be multiple children. So we have to access the children by using the child's name. So if we want to access the base plate that's inside of workspace, on base plate, or go inside of workspace, we can see the base plate. We can do workspace.baseplate, and now we have the base plate. We can print out, we can actually access the base plate's properties. So we click on it and we look down in the properties tab. If you don't see it, you can go up to view and hit properties, see it, and then you can see all these different properties. We can print out a property. We'll print out the transparency for now because that's the main property we're going to be using in this video. But print out, it gives us 0 because the base plate's transparency is 0. If it was 1, then we wouldn't be able to see through the... Or no, if it was 1, then we would be able to see through the base plate. If it's 0, then we can't see through it. And anywhere in between makes it transparent, but not completely. So we can also change something's property, or here, I'll go over this first. We can actually store instances inside of variables. So I'm just gonna add a part to workspace real quick. We're in Explorer, and then we'll just call the variable part, and then we just make our reference to the part, workspace.part, right? Because the part is a child of workspace now. And we can set the part's transparency to something like 0.5, like that. And if we run it, and you can see we can kind of see through it. Oh, maybe not because of the texture. I'll destroy the texture. Oh wait, no. I changed the part's transparency, I'm stupid. Alright, you can see we can kind of see through it. It has half transparency. Right. If I can stop having an aneurysm. You can see we can see through the part, right? Now, something we can do that I want to go over is we can store the part's transparency inside a variable. And say we set it to 0.5 now. We're accessing the variable, which is storing the part's transparency property. Now we're switching it to the variable to 0.5, and you can see once we run it, the part's transparency didn't change. So the reason this is because it's called indirect change, what we're doing is we're taking the value from the property and we're just storing it in transparency. We're not actually taking the reference of part.transparency, we're just taking the value of it. So you can't actually store like the reference to properties in a variable. You can store their values, but you can't store like the property reference itself. So once we change it to 0.5, all we're doing is changing the value of this variable. We're not changing the value of the parts transparency. You can only store reference to instances, not properties, right? Hopefully that makes sense. Alright, and then the last thing, I guess, I'll give you like a script to write. I know this video probably isn't going to be very long, but hopefully it's, you know, informational or whatever. So I'm going to give you like a prompt or whatever for something to make. So what you're going to do is make the for loop and pretty much make it so the for loop gradually changes the parts transparency. Now, there is a way to do this, like much easier than using a for loop, but we're not going to go over that in this video. That's for a future video, but just for now, like make a, you know, a for loop, and the for loop will gradually change the parts transparency. You can make it like gradually transparent or make it gradually appear or whatever, but go ahead and do that, I guess, and once you do, I'll or you can pause the video, do that, and I'll show you how I do it in like a few seconds. Something to take note though is you're gonna want to add a task.wait at the beginning and maybe give it like 2 or 3 seconds, because the script will run before you actually load into the game to be able to see the part transfer, unless you use run, I think. So just something to keep in mind. And I'll add like a 2-second wait here. So I'll show you my solution to it now, I guess. What I'll do is I'll make a for loop, and we'll make a control variable and we'll set it to 0. We'll make our goal 1 and we'll make it change by 0.1. We'll do this. Let me define our part. Part. It's workspace.part, not parent. And then we can do part.transparency equals I. So what this does is it makes a variable and starts it at 0. And it increments it by 0.1 each iteration. And it keeps doing that until it's reached 1. So basically, it'll slowly change its transparency until it's reached 1. We'll go ahead and run it, see what happens. It was a little too fast. So we'll add a task.wait in there, so it's not running too fast, and we can actually see it like gradually change. See, that was actually very smooth, kind of impressive, right? So I kind of want to see that again, just how smooth it looks. Look how sexy that looks. Come on, guys. Alright, so that's it for this video, pretty much. The next one we'll be going over special data types. And we're pretty much getting into the point where you can actually start making like things in Studio. We're getting pretty close to that point where you'll actually be able to do stuff on your own. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.